What's up, guys? We're here. Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to bring an update video to my demon form Infernalist Witch and just talk about it because yesterday the patch notes came out and the patch was actually implemented. So a big skill change that a lot of people are dealing with is the skills socketed in metagems. Sockets can no longer gain energy. So I was very, very concerned about this because I thought that this was going to apply to barrier evocation with my comet. But I'm here to tell you guys right now that we survived the nerf and it is perfectly fine. And just to showcase this really quickly, we're going to go into demon form. I'm going to cast my thing and you can see that I can still spam no problem. Now, a big part of this is because of the demon form ascendancy, and what demon form actually does is... or not demon form, excuse me, pyromantic pact, because it changes our mana into Infernal Flame, and it kind of helps override this system to some degree. I could be wrong about this, guys. Let me know down in the comments, but this is just how I'm interpreting it. But it's because we have Infernal Flame, and pyromantic pact just says when we build up enough flame, that's building up our energy to cast barrier evocation. So that's kind of what's overriding this, to my understanding of this. If anybody has a clarification on that, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. So it does make it very interesting with the skill sockets to metagems never being able to gain energy anymore. So essentially what that means is just like if this in here was like cast on freeze and you had comment, to my understanding, like when you freeze an enemy with like Ice Strike, then the comment's going to come down. If that comment also freezes enemy, that comment can build up the energy. That can no longer happen. So that may suffer for the other cast on abilities and just metagems as far as gaining energy. But right now, I have no issues with this build, guys. I've been getting a lot of questions on my other build, like the original build video for this, and this build still works just fine. So I wanted to make a follow-up video to this and just kind of go over the Infernal Flame, Infernalist, Demon Form, Comet spam. If you guys are still interested in running Comets and you want to play this, this still works very, very well. You can still absolutely blast in here. So if we just do this like T12, just as an example, we go blast this. Like the build is still very, very strong. It's still dominating. So if we pop this right, and then we get my comments going, we're just good to go. The build still works just fine. In some cases, it might be even better now since the change of the metagems. But it still just absolutely destroys everything in here, guys. So the build is still working just fine for anybody who is curious about the nerf. I've been getting so many comments about it. But yeah, guys, the build still works just fine in demon mode with the pyromantic pact. You don't have to be in demon form for pyromantic pact to actually work. So you can do this without demon form, right? If I build it up, I can still cast my comets and still do this just fine, even in regular form. Like I don't need to be in demon mode for this to actually work. So the build is still fine. Now, for those who are interested about the build, you guys can check out the previous build video, or you guys could just kind of check this out. I'm going to do a rough overview of the build. So essentially what we're doing is we're an Infernalist on the Witch, and we're abusing the demon form for demonic possession, and this turns us into a demon, and we get to have increased cast speed plus to all skill levels. We lose life per second, and we do increased spell damage per demon flame stack that we get while we're in demon form. So while we're in demon form, we rack up these stacks here. Each stack that we get is 17% more spell damage. However, we're going to take 5% of our maximum life. As you guys can see here, my life is just dwindling down until I start actually casting my skills, and then you get to see my life regen actually happen. See, my life regen goes up. I only have 440 life. So eventually 360 life, 497 life. So I'm regaining more life per second than I actually have life. So I should never die no matter how many stacks I actually build up. In addition, we have Pyromantic Pact, which is replacing our mana for Infernal Flame. This is what's allowing us to have be able to spam our meteors in combination with our barrier evocation. So essentially what we're doing is we have no mana, So no mana involves anything here. We don't want mana anywhere. And when we use an ability, it fuels our Infernal Flame. So as opposed to spending mana, we're actually building Infernal Flame. So this costs 266. So I build up 266 when I actually cast it until it reaches full, and then it's going to deal damage to me. So while we are using Pyromantic Pact, when it fills up, I take damage to myself. I ignite my character, and I take damage. So when we take damage, we're on fire, as you guys can see, and that allows us to actually cast our Barrier Evocation to spam these comets so effortlessly. Now, because we are utilizing Infernal Flame, and we do have a spam, all of our costs are going to be coming through Infernal Flame and be moved over to our energy shield. You can see when I cast any of my skills from Barrier Evocation, it spends my energy shield, which is why I have such a high energy shield number. Okay, now we are a potion build, so we're utilizing our life flask to regenerate this shield. As you guys can see, when this goes down, if I press my potion, it's just going to fill it right back up instantly. We're in the Paragon or the passive tree. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now, for this build, you don't need any crazy gear. This is probably one of the cheapest builds that I've ever made. The main pieces that we're going to need is the Ghost Wraith Tattered Robe. This is what converts a lot of our life over to energy shield and is going to give us a lot of chaos resistance, which is why we have all of our resistances actually capped. So Ghost Wraith is the only unique that you really need in this version of the build. So these are very, very cheap unless you want to get a 60% maximum converted. But it's very, very cheap to get this. Next, all you're looking for in all of your other gear pieces is just resistances, increased energy shield, 2 maximum energy shield, and resistance. That's all you need in all your other gear pieces is just as much energy shield as you possibly can get. Always try to get energy shield bases if you can and get the highest ones that you possibly can. In our amulet, we're doing a dexterity amulet because we need to have a crap ton of spirit. You need to have a lot of spirit here for our multiple spells. We got Barrier Evocation, which takes 60, and then we have Alchemist Boon, which takes another 30. So you want to have as much spirit, as close to 50 as you can in your amulet, along with resistances. The next most important stat is damage taken recouped as life. So what this means is that on my character sheet, I have 34% damage taken as life. So what this means is when I fill up my Infernal Flame and deal damage, I'm regaining 34% of this, 70 a life per second from other sources, which is my damage recouped as life. So not only am I regenerating life when I use spells, but I'm taking damage and recovering that as well. So I regenerate so much life, I should just never die. We have Anointed Hard to Kill. Very, very cheap to anoint this. Increased flash recovery with 0.75% of our life recovered per second or regenerated per second. Just makes it so we can sustain the Infernal Flame combo. Other than that, guys, the belt is the next important piece. You want to get flash charges gain per second. This just helps us try to sustain our flasks, which are very important. Gloves, same thing. Just get resistances and energy shield. Same thing on the rings. Get chaos res, get some more resistances, get some increased damage. Rarity is also very good. You can get a huge elemental boost here with all res and fire res. Just try to get those and level those up. Same thing on the helmet, energy shield. Try not to get mana like I have here, but get all resistances. You do not need a weapon for this. The only reason that I actually have the weapon in here is for when I cast my curse. Otherwise, you don't need a weapon at all because in demon form, we do not utilize weapons. Now, into the passive tree. The passive tree has not changed from the previous video, guys. We've actually added to it because we've gained a couple levels. So the tree is the same. The only nodes that we did add is the extra life recoup here, which really we want to go into the elemental damage since we're actually dealing fire damage to us. I don't need to take the physical. I actually need to get this. So I need to get one more point somewhere to actually take these points in. But the rest of the tree is the exact same, guys, as before. We're utilizing Heartstopper for less damage. We're also utilizing Eternal Youth, which instead of our life regenerating, our energy shield is going to regenerate, and then life recovery from our flask applies to our energy shield as opposed to our life, which is another reason why we have such a low life total. Now, again, you do not have to have a low life total to actually do this. I have this extra gear piece where I actually have 1,300 life. which just makes me super more tanky. You can sustain this with how much life regen that I have on the build, as well as the damage recoup from life. So I can sustain it with this, which just gives us some higher resistance, more life, and more energy shield. It is totally up to you, and we crashed in the middle of the video, which is just lovely. So the life sustain is fine if you want to have more life. It just makes you more tankier. I do lose a little bit of energy shield by using the other one, but that's okay. So you don't have to do that. Into the skills, we got demon form here. We're rocking ingenuity, more importantly, with second wind. The cooldown recovery and less cooldown recovery makes it awesome. We can have an additional chance to use this with second wind. So if we kind of got to come out of infernal flame or demon form, we can just go right back in. Next, barrier evocation, the main thing we need for the build. Barrier evocation with capacitor for more maximum energy that we get generated. Comet, which is our main skill. Then we have spell echo for more damage, as well as considered casting for more damage. Now in this build, there's a few different versions that you guys can do. You do not need to have just Comet. I've tested this with these skills. I've used Arc, I've used Spark, and I've used Fireball. All of them work amazingly. It's just Comet does the most damage from everything that I've tested. Next is Alchemist Boon. This just gives us some more recovery from our flasks, which is great, and flask charges per second. And we have Herbalism on here just to kind of help with even more recovery. Now, outside of that, her Hypothermia is our main curse here. We got Hypothermia to apply cold, negative resistance, because we're using Comet, which is a cold skill. And then we got Increase Effect. This is also the skill that we initially use to build up our Infernal Flame. So that way, once we fill it up, then we can cast Comet. No problem. Let's not die. And then there we go. Now, I do have 41 spirit left in this build, so there's a few different options that you guys can actually do. You can do Arctic Armor, which is fine. You could do Grim Feast, which is just great for mapping. Like, both of those are really, really good if you want. It's totally up to you. You can use either one of these. It doesn't really matter. These are just extra, you know, just defenses that you guys can have, but they are not required for the build. Grim Feast, if you want to run it just as blank. Then Arctic Armor, we have Deep Freeze, Glaciation, and Cold Mastery. So when we actually do get hit, we apply some kind of just barrier there and some stun and just just a burst of ice. So hopefully we can freeze somebody if they actually hit us. Outside of that, guys, everything else is explained in depth for the build in the previous video. I will note that you need to have 141% energy gain modifier, or excuse me, 139% or higher to actually make this work. If you do not have this number, then it's going to be an additional cast of Hypothermia, which just means that when you cast this, you'd have to cast Meteor and then cast Hypothermia, then cast Meteor again. Once you get it to 139 or higher, you'll be able to just spam this no problem, and you won't actually have to cast Hypothermia except for your initial buildup of Infernal Flame. Outside of that, guys, the build is still really, really fun. It survived the nerfs, so make sure to check it out if you guys want to do some Comet spamming. Like the video, comment down below if you guys have any other questions about this build. I will say with the energy gain also, because I get a lot of questions about this, if you do not have this number to 139 or higher, you need to come in here and get a few gems that will help. This is all highlighted in the planner. You need to get meta skills gain 15% increased energy. This does have to be at least one gem that has this. You need at least one with a max 15% to do this. Now, also with your energy gains, you need to have Barrier Evocation level 19 with 20 quality, and you need to have Comet at level 19. The 20 quality just helps with the crit, but it doesn't need to be qualityed. Both of these, Comet and Barrier Evocation, have to be level 19 or you will not generate enough energy. In addition, you need to have your Infernal Flame as low as it possibly can be. I have mine at 741, and the main reason for that is because I have no intelligence, which gives me mana, and I have no mana in any gear piece that I have except for my helmet, which is actually just 28. So you need to get this as low as possible so that way you can spam your comets no problem. Okay, guys? But yeah, that's the video. Infernal Flame, or excuse me, which Infernalist demon form still survived the comet spam nerfs of the patch. So guys, go out and enjoy this build. The planner will be down in the description. Like and comment if you guys have answers. I'll try to help you guys out. And as always, stay gaming, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.